Hello and good evening for this Thursday, July 6, 2023. We are just getting started here of our review of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 4, titled Among the Lotus Eaters. I'm Dave Mader, coming to you live here on Facebook, Twitch, and on YouTube, or you might be listening to us on the audio version, either somewhat recently or somewhat in the future. We're going to break down this episode and talk all about it as we do with every episode of Star Trek. I'm joined by a fantastic panel here tonight. First and foremost, well, not foremost, I don't want to take away from my third panelist, but of course, we have the great Davan Skelhorn with us tonight.
Of course I'm here, but that's irrelevant. What I want to know is where's Jody?
He'll be here.
He's been sick. He's been sick to death that there hasn't been any Pike in any of these episodes. Finally, we get some Pike, and there's no Jody.
Well, I think Jody will be here.
Is Jody will be here. Something else that we don't want to talk about? Like, what's going on here?
We are starting a few minutes late tonight because we were playing some ball hockey, or deck hockey, as it's sometimes referred to, stateside. So Jody and I, we fought well tonight. Came out with a tie, but so Jody expect will be along, even though he lives closer to the rink than I do. But he was on beer duty tonight. Also, we have the great world mind himself, Chris Murphy.
Who? Me? What am I doing here? What's happening?
That's you, sir.
Oh, yes. No, I am Chris Worldmind Murphy. I am a podcaster to talk about Star Trek Strange New Worlds. This was a very interesting episode that gravely affected my tinnitus, and I was not a fan of that, so it's already losing a point for that, but, we'll get into it.
Your tinnitus?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds awful.
What is it?
It's like you hear knocking and ringing in your ears, and it just happens all the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Well, very fitting.
My grandmother on your side hears that shit all the time.
Yeah. I don't have it like a consistent tinnitus. It mostly affects if I'm in a silent room, if I'm laying in bed. It'll just go off at random points, and it's just like long tones of ringing. That happened often in this show. If that happens in any type of movie, it triggers it. But they were really aggressive about it in this episode. And it was just I had to literally pick my headphones off my head, wait for it to be done, and then put it back on. So wasn't a fan of that. But in general, good stuff.
Good stuff. Jody is a Karen because he's late?
I can't stress that enough. We can't stress that enough.
We can't stress that enough. No, we can't. You're right. Guys, first impressions of the episode, and of course we will be spoiling the hell out of this episode, so spoiler alert all around. Davan, how about you first?
Well, I would like to go first. We're back, baby. We're back. Star Trek is back. We're back from that last episode debacle. And look, I told you guys mocked me for my 2 out of 10 last episode, so I told you guys I would rewatch it, and I did, just right before I watched this new episode, and that my 2 was generous. That is a garbage fire. It's more of an advertisement than it is a Star Trek episode. You guys, in fact, are the ones who need to go back.
You are the ones who are the ball lickers.
Exactly. You are the ones. Exactly.
I will rewatch that episode, and I feel my score will hold strong because I feel it was a great episode for La'an, and it was a fun episode to be there with Kirk.
We're not talking about that
solid episode.
We're not talking about episode 3.
You guys need to go back and watch that.
We're here in episode 4.
We're back, baby. This is
Wait, we're doing episode 4?
Yes, episode 4.
Oh.
Right.
Lotus Eaters. We're doing episode 4. And I'm Chris Worldmind Murphy, and I'm a podcaster.
Oh, he forgets where he is. He forgets where he is.
All right. Okay. So Davin's coming in positive. He feels like we're back to form.
Luckily, Dave and I are so ingrained in our podcast abilities that we have not suffered the same losses as Murphy has. We still know how to podcast and host a podcast, don't we, Dave?
That's right. It's less significant to us. Yes, I suppose so. Less damaging. So
exactly. You can take that one way or the other. Yeah. But no, this is good stuff. This is good stuff here. We've got an interesting concept with a planet that loses its memories every night, and not everyone, of course, not the royals. Um,
They will never be
but
royals.
okay,
They got
here's
their
a question.
tinfoil
Uh,
hats.
so this is and it also has like good character stuff, not shitty character stuff like the last episode. That's not good. That's not good character stuff for Law in last episode. It's reductive and terrible. Now
Well,
this episode has good character stuff for everybody. Well, not everybody, but a lot of characters. There's a lot of characters in this, and it's like kind of dumbing them. Well, the whole thing about their memory loss is it's
yes.
focusing on the things that are very much innate to that character, um, which was very interesting, and did a lot of work for that. But what this episode also did was I find this series does a lot of work for the original series, because when you watch, if as most of us probably did, we saw a lot of the newer series first, and then went back and watched the original series.
Right. I'd
Maybe-
say if you're under, or sorry, if you're over 45, you probably, watched the original series first, but under 45, you probably were like next gen or
Yeah.
something like that after. Right? So,
And if you go back and watch the original series after cutting your teeth on the newer stuff, it can be a bit jarring. And you're like, is this the same sort of thing? Like, what's going on here? It's very wacky. But this series does a bit of that, but in a more modern kind of sense. Like, this is a wacky episode, and they do a lot of wacky stuff. And like, this feels like a TOS episode to me.
absolutely. Which is fitting because it's set in the TOS era or just before it.
Yeah. So I feel like it does a lot of work of like legitimizing and almost modernizing some of the TOS concepts. I think this series inevitably, when it's all done, will make TOS more watchable.
Well, there you go. Well, that's a great point, and I hope you're correct on that. I'd like to turn the floor over to the world mind. And see so how did you feel about Among the Lotus Eaters?
So yeah, aside from my brief disagreements with the Tinnitus bits, I enjoyed this episode a lot. I enjoyed the fun adventure of going to Rigel 7. I'm not entirely familiar with Rigel 7. To echo,
I have a
Davin's
question for
statements.
Dave regarding Rigel 7.
I also have
I'm
some
not
questions around Rigel
okay.
in general, but yes.
Okay. Okay, we have the same questions. Never mind.
So to echo Davin's statement, I'm not entirely familiar with the TOS series. Like I know of it, and I know the movies more so than the actual series. So I don't know a lot of the lore on Rigel 7. So this was more or less my first jaunt.
Well,
to this
that's not.
planet.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the
And-
problem with it, yeah.
That's so. Well, let's address that right now, shall we?
Yes. Yes.
Have there not been Rigelians, or have
Yes.
they only referenced Rigel and we've just assumed Rigelians?
I'm pretty sure they have referenced Rigelians as a species.
I thought so.
And there have been I'm very confused about what is going on with Rigel. Is it one star system? Is it many star systems? Is it because
Well,
there are
Rigel 7 is just the 7th planet in that system.
then this
So-
is like the busiest, most amazing star system in the entire,
Yes, exactly.
not just in the Milky Way, probably in all galaxies. It's
Yeah,
like
Yeah, it has the Rigelians on some planet, and
I
that
think
would have these
Rigel 5 or
Kalarians
Rigel
on-
4.
No, I thought they were from Rigel 7, the Rigelians.
I can't even keep track of how many Rigels we've had.
So there's
It's a lot.
multiple Rigels then.
Or was
like
it
there's-
Rigel 4? Oh, they might be from Rigel 4.
Like there's an episode where they go to Rigel 3
Yeah.
and it's a mining
it's
planet
Rigel
just
3.
ran by the Federation in the original series. There is a Rigel 9 referenced in another episode. Like so this is like the busiest star system with so many inhabitable planets, and they're all different and they're all got their own little quirks and amazing things happen there.
Apparently.
So there's
Apparently
9
it's the
planets
most
within
amazing
the
star system.
Goldilocks system of a solar system.
Apparently.
At least 9.
At least 7.
That
I'm just trying to see. Okay, in Star Trek,
Like,
in canon, they've referenced Rigel 2, Rigel 3, Rigel 4, Rigel 5, Rigel
Yeah.
6, Rigel 7, Rigel 10, and Rigel 12.
Oh, jeez, Rigel 10. What, in
And-
Rigel 12?
There are Rigelians, Rigelans, and now the
Yes.
Kalar, who were introduced in
Yeah,
this
now
episode.
the Kalar.
Yeah,
are these all
So the
confirmed planets,
Rigelians
like, are
and the
some
Ri-
of these moons?
possibly.
No, if it has a no, it wouldn't have a name. a moon wouldn't be Rigel 7.
Yeah, it would be a moon of something else. But
Exactly.
this is the craziest. I want to go to this star system. I know it's fictional, but like I wish like this would be
Me too.
this would be
No,
the best
it's
place
all
to
real.
go.
We were talking about that on Hold Up last night. All the starships are real eventually. All these planets are real eventually.
Just putting this out there, since you two are fast explorers of the online series of Star Trek.
Star Trek
can you
Online, the
not
video
just
game, yes.
Visit the Rigels.
Well, certainly Dave is certainly.
In Star Trek Online,
It
which
would
is
be, right?
a great video game, you can make Rigelian characters. Actually, Adam Woodward, our friend from this podcast, in my video game, he is a Rigelian, and the Rigelians in that video game are kind of like turtle people. Like they're like if turtles were humanoids, kind of.
Yes, because we've never seen them in Star Trek canon.
They're referenced, but they're never seen. Yes.
And they're often they're often referenced as
actually that not entirely true. There have been some canonical appearances. I just want to point out in Star Trek Lower Decks, this guy is technically a Rigelian.
No, that's not Rigelian. Those guys are
these are Rigelians.
No. What?
Yeah.
Okay then.
That's what a Rigelian looks like, not to be confused with a Rigellan, which is probably from another planet. Yeah, actually, we have no.
Well, that's not what I thought they were.
You're probably thinking of this, Davan, like what we saw in Star Trek. I know that's a really small picture, but we kind of seen them in some Star Trek movies in the past. These are Rigellans. It's confusing. Anyway, I think that the in the canonical version, but yeah, like this is more like that turtle. This is like the person. This is from Star Trek Enterprise.
Yeah, I know. I didn't think that character was a Rigelian in Enterprise. I thought they were not a Kataran.
They're not Kataran.
Who's the captain that Janeway served under?
I think that maybe the short answer to all this is that like Rigelians is just like a fun word Star Trek writers love to throw into stuff, and Rigel seems to be less planet or this thing that we love to throw in just Star Trek scripts for whatever reason. But
in sci-fi in general, like what the Simpsons aliens are from Rigel.
Yeah, it's just I don't know what the correlation is. Hello,
well,
Jody.
There is actually a Rigel in the constellations out there.
So what you're teling me is this guy's a Rigelian.
Yes.
Turtle.
Yeah, he's kind of Rigelian-esque, minus like the facial.
Jody, how you feeling, bud? Feeling better?
Tired.
You're not feeling energized, or no?
You should have seen Jody in hockey tonight. He was a man possessed.
A man possessed.
I don't know.
But Jody, you were feeling sickly almost on the lack of Pike in this series, and we have a very Pike-centric episode here. So I assume you look, there's more color in your face. You look rejuvenated.
I think you're going really far on this joke. No, I'm glad. I'm glad Pike is actually in the episode, which is nice.
Does it count though?
I have problems with this episode, but we'll get to that.
Okay, well, we're just talking about. We haven't even gotten into the plot yet, so if you want to tell us your sort of high level summary, executive summary of this episode, please proceed.
To be pretty short, it was kind of boring. I didn't find it all that exciting. The overuse of the tinnitus, as somebody who actually suffers from tinnitus and hears that on a regular basis, it is absolutely terrible to hear it all the time.
Murphy also has tinnitus.
This guy gets it.
Yeah, it is not comfortable.
Yeah.
If that's a thing, I don't want that at all.
No, that's what I have.
It runs in our family, Dave.
It does?
Well, my grandmother on your side of the family has it.
Your grandmother?
Yeah, who's related to you?
Your grandmother's not related to me. Your grandfather was related to me, not your grandmother.
Oh, fair point.
So
runs on my side of the family. No.
Is it a terrible episode? No. I think it had some good moments in it. I like that we got a little bit more of Ortega. We got to see kind of her side of things, which is nice. I like her character. I always have. So I think, it's nice to have a little bit of a more centric episode with her. I would have liked to see more of that. Looking gangster.
She deserves her away mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never get it.
I
So-
felt for her in this,
Yeah, maybe she'll get an away mission next episode. But
Yeah.
the tinnitus, the overuse of the tinnitus sound is it wasn't comfortable for me. Because the first thing
That
I
was the
thought was
point.
that I actually was having that, and I was like, oh geez, and then I'm like, oh no, wait, I
It's
hit
like
I
Das
hit
Boot.
mute and it's gone. I'm like, oh geez.
It's like Das Boot.
well,
It's
now
like
Murph,
Das Boot. It's supposed
I would
make
love
you
to
feel
talk to you
uncomfortable.
about that after this.
yeah, we'll get into the plot, but what's
We'll get into
interesting,
Das Boot later.
I mean,
Murph-
Das Boot, yeah.
Murphy was, explaining that he hasn't watched that much original series. He's not that familiar with those characters, but this show is of course a prequel to the original series.
Yep.
And the more I'm watching this, now we are here like a little bit into season 2, not quite halfway through season 2. I'm starting to come around to this idea that this crew, this Strange New Worlds crew of the Enterprise, the original 1701, might be superior to the Kirk-led crew that comes after them.
100%. 100% there.
I don't know if I disagree with that.
I
Obviously,
mean, McCoy's kind of a terrible doctor, and Benga's definitely a better doctor than McCoy.
yeah, but
I
McCoy
Vega's the
definitely
best
has more
doctor in
character.
Starfleet.
Ortega's versus Sulu, or I know Uhura is.
I think you're also judging a
Sulu's
difference
kind
of
of a nothing
times.
person.
Like they have a lot more to work with now than they did back then, and so
That was a choice. They chose to give the other characters nothing back then.
But
That's
for a
true.
long time, the gold standard was the original series. Even like Picard and his crew had a hard time measuring up for a long time, and
Well,
I think eventually they did.
That was nostalgia.
Yeah, you have people like your dad who grew up with the original series, and the original series is the pinnacle. That is, everything now has to reach that, and obviously he doesn't feel that it has, but it's
It never will. Right?
and never will. But I understand that. Like it's just like if you explain something like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to me, the original cartoon is far superior to anything that's on there.
Have you gone back and watched the original cartoon, Jody?
I love the
Like
original
I would have
cartoon.
said that, not thinking about it, but no,
The original movie holds up to me.
the original
To
movie
be
is
fair,
amazing.
I think it was 2012, the Nickelodeon series that had come
Yeah.
out, I believe. In
There are better
2012.
turtle
That was
cartoons.
primo turtles.
Yeah, even like
The
the first
80s
Michael Bay
turtle
movie was
cartoon
all
is-
right.
But I
for
grew up with
4-year-olds.
comics, so for me, it's the same type of scenario. You're not going to get better than the comics. The comics obviously are much more hardcore than what was presented on Saturday morning television.
But some of those newer cartoons are more like those.
But the same thing. Well, Davan, you can relate to this. The X-Men series. There's been many X-Men series since, but that '90s X-Men animated series is fantastic.
They nailed it.
Yeah,
They nailed it. And
spot
one
on, and
sense of nothing.
that is now the gold standard, and it's the same thing as Dave's mentioning here.
That's why it's
A
getting
lot
a
of people
reboot.
look at the original series as being the gold standard, when I think we've had many instances where the other series have been superior, by far. And I'm not just talking from a technical aspect. I mean writing. I mean the characters themselves.
You
So
think-
I wouldn't disagree with you, Dave. I actually think this crew is better than the original.
And I think part of the
The
thing I
gold
like.
standard comes from the movies, I think. Like when you think
well,
of the best moments from
it's
TOS,
hard to
everyone
top-
thinks of the TOS movies.
Yeah, it's
Like,
very
you know,
hard
think
to
of
top
Wrath of
Undiscovered
Khan.
Country.
Undiscovered Country is the best movie ever, pretty much. It's
It's
a
fantastic.
great movie.
I agree that like some of the best TOS or like the Kirk-led stories are those movies. Although there are some original series episodes that I would hold up as good
Absolutely.
as any
yeah.
modern Star Trek episode or in between.
City on the Edge of Forever.
Yeah, there's like a handful, and there's a whole like Jody and I went through every episode together with Adam and my dad, and we know there's a lot of trash, and there's about 15 really strong episodes, and and
Yeah.
all good, but
It's a good number.
yeah, it's something in that range.
The gold standard is this podcast, and how we are 20 minutes in, we still get to talk.
We
about
still haven't even talked about what
All
happened in this
New
episode,
Worlds.
guys.
Let's get
Let's
moving.
get
We're
into it.
talking about a podcast.
We are. What happened in this episode, guys? We had the Enterprise, and they were going with the USS Cayuga. Balance of Terror is a great episode.
Good
Yes.
point, Sam. It's the best episode.
Is anybody getting a little sick and tired of his chick? Like,
No.
I'm feeling she's
No.
outstaying her welcome now.
No.
Hey,
No,
we
she
should-
outstayed her welcome in the last episode. No, not the last episode. The courtroom episode, which she never should have been in.
She shouldn't have been in that
Starfleet
episode.
captain,
That's true.
Not a
Yeah.
friggin' lawyer.
It's probably
But no,
it's, Yeah, it's my least favorite thing about this episode.
She
Is
needs
they
to get her ass back to Leonard
came
Kenny.
right off of that episode, and they're like, "But no, dude, guess what? She's the captain of the Cayuga."
How you know?
All right, I'm gonna put my foot down on this one. I liked her in this episode. I liked her more so by the end of this episode.
I like her in this episode
and
too.
I'm all for the relationship. I think
I was worried they were
going
to break them up.
And me
I
too.
I don't know if I need it.
And I'm glad that they didn't. No, I think it's cute.
I don't know if I need this. I don't need this dynamic.
reality.
It doesn't add anything.
It
I don't
does
think
sure it does, because we never get that with Starfleet captains. It's specifically don't have, except for Cisco with the Cassidy.
And he knows he's on borrowed
He's
time.
special
Remember, he knows his future. He knows he's going to end up in that wheelchair,
Yeah.
right? So this relationship with her is
BB
kind of,
wheelchair.
him pushing her away in this episode is kind of interesting, in some dynamics, because he feels kind of betrayed from her because she was the prosecutor and she arrested number one or Una and all that. And we're kind of playing off that. But that conflict, I don't think you need here. And that I agree with Davan that she shouldn't have been the prosecutor in the previous episode. I don't think
Makes
that
no
was,
sense.
yeah. I think that was the wrong decision.
He should have been making pasta mama, am I right?
Making pasta mama.
Yes,
Did I
he
tell
should
you
have
that I
been
made
making
pasta mana the other day?
Yeah, you said it was pretty good.
It was very good, actually.
Well, Pike would agree with you.
I
But
was
we see
quite-
here
I was quite happy with it.
they're trying to have a romantic dinner to start off the episode, and she gets a call from start the admiral or whatever, and she has to go off. But we see her. Pike is pensive. He's kind of deep in thought. He's not really sure about this relationship, especially coming off last episode. And we see her. She takes this
I
call.
think he does.
Yeah. And they sit down for their pasta and their wine, and there's kind of
He does make a lot of pasta.
He loves pasta.
No,
Is it,
He's a pasta
is it
lover.
He loves
pasta?
pasta.
I thought it was like some
Yeah.
sort of steak or something.
Yeah, it's
Spaghetti.
his mama's sauce.
No, it's like a spaghetti
No,
mound.
Yeah, he just formed his pasta.
Definitely spaghetti.
He's being all fancy restaurant.
Maybe fettuccine. I don't know.
Listen,
But,
I'm just gonna say it. I would put his bolognese in my mouth.
there you go.
Oh,
Well,
oh my! So would Jody.
Oh, oh, jeez. All right.
He's like,
I'm
hey,
telling you, if I'm ever gonna turn,
But in this, okay, she got
He's up
passed
there.
over. She got passed over for the Commodore promotion, right? And probably because of what happened in the last episode, because she wasn't a strong enough prosecutor of number
He's
one.
not a lawyer. But anyway,
Lawyer,
that
yeah.
wasn't the last episode.
It was last episode.
like you
Or two.
talk
Sorry, you're
this
right.
stuff
You're right.
you never do.
The episode.
Two episodes ago.
I know you're confused because Murphy isn't talking about Toronto the entire time. So
Hey, Dave, you're a terrible brain scientist.
I am very bad.
Exactly.
I'm not
because
a great
you're not a brain
neurologist.
scientist.
No,
They're
I, part-time lawyer, part-time
Different-
ship captain. That's how it goes.
Oh my god.
But-
This episode has a thing like that too, though. The thing about this series is, in every episode, almost they put a thing in it feels like a Discovery writer put it in there. It always has like a nugget
You
of
said that.
Discovery in it.
Because this episode was written by Kirsten Beyer, who is a great.
Oh,
I know. I'm just rooting for you. Yep. Right. One of the brain trusts of Star Trek Discovery wrote this episode, or co-wrote this episode.
I wonder I like this
the
episode
writer
so
of
much.
boring comics.
Yeah, I know. And her short treks, a couple of her short, like that one with the Picard short trek. Oh my god. Anyway.
Yes, this is very Kirsten Beyer. Now that you say that,
You were positive on it. Don't worry.
I still am. Like, this is her best work.
by
Maybe,
the way,
yeah.
I didn't realize until yesterday that Lon actually sings in real life.
Yeah, Christina
She
Shaw
Just released her
released
an
first
album.
single. Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I
yeah, she
didn't
just
realize
released
that.
her first single.
I listened to it.
Jesus.
Honestly, it's not the greatest.
Rigel 7 and the Kalar were mentioned in the cage. Pike had just come off that
Kalar.
mission where 3 of his
Oh my!
crew died before they went to Talos.
Good point. Good
Man,
catch there, NZ.
That's a good catch, Zed. That's some serious catching there.
Right. And speaking of which, we also get this briefing to start the episode because they're heading to Rigel 7. And this is apparently somewhere the Enterprise has been before. And 3 people died on that mission. One of which was Zach Nguyen, who will come back in this episode.
Who's that?
Oh,
He's basically
I gotta say, that was
Glenn
Not
from
a good actor.
The
He
Walking
was
Dead.
kind of
you notice how here we have C. Plummer, as in, I think, a reference to Christopher Plummer, is one of the deceased from the previous mission.
very slick.
Yeah, I don't know who M. Berth is.
That
but-
dude has ears for days.
Like the Oberth class.
The Oberth, the Aberth. It's Aberth, not Oberth, but yeah.
I know.
And it says science specialist, but why? If you're a science specialist, why are you wearing a red shirt? Anyway,
That's a good point.
Christian Buyer.
But Zach
I
Nguyen,
bet you somebody got the subtitles mixed up, and Christopher
Yeah.
Plummer is supposed to be the science specialist. That's probably an editing mistake.
but they see here, guys, the planet that we visited all those years ago, we have to go
actually-
clean up. It's
Sorry.
cultural contamination.
That was one thing I actually wanted to mention. Did you guys notice the terrible dubbing on this episode?
No.
So the old guy that was talking to Pike when Pike goes to like later on in the episode,
Yep.
if you go back to that scene, his mouth does not match the words that are being said. So they must have dubbed over, or maybe there was an original line there and they didn't like it.
Like
so
the
they
main
had-
old guy?
Yeah.
Like the main guy? Like
the forgetting guy.
See,
Yeah,
for
the
me,
forgetting
he's the strongest thing in this episode. I felt his.
Oh, I wouldn't disagree with that.
Very
I just
good.
thought it was interesting that they dubbed over his lines. I'm like, why did they dub
That is
over it? I
weird.
wonder what it originally was. So
Yeah.
maybe it was just a a mic issue or something.
But in this opening scene, after the briefing, they're heading to Rigel 7 to clean up the cultural contamination that was left behind, because clearly they left some equipment or something behind, and they have to go clean it up. And so, but then number one says to Pike, like, what's
So
happening?
they left Yeoman Zach behind.
They didn't know that. We don't know that yet, though. But I liked this dynamic between Una and Pike, where they're talking about his relationship with Patel, and and get that you push people away and you do this and you do that. And he's like, I do, and so it was. I liked that part of it. I liked them talking about like. Then they move to this part here where they're talking about the mission. Why is the Enterprise going on the mission? It's a courtesy because we have to clean this up. We have to clean up our own mess.
It's just a courtesy. They usually send someone else to rub it in your face.
Yes.
They're like, this person's gonna clean up your mess, and the captain's like, God damn it. Yeah.
So Kristen Beyer
Oh
is
my God,
mentioned,
Kirsten Beyer.
and Davy Perez.
You know what's funny? I was at a comic store the other day, and the owner of the comic store said to me, Devin, do you collect all the Star Trek comics? And I said, not the ones written by Kirsten Beyer.
I wonder why that is.
I generally agree with you. Most of her writing it hasn't resonated with me. This is an exception. But so good on her.
Yeah, this is her best work. I like this episode.
Starts off here with this log here from Ortega's, who gets to go on the mission.
It's
Right.
very her style.
Very her style. She's just like, flying the ship can be boring sometimes. I get to go to a away mission. I never get to do that. And she's like putting the hat on here. I of course had to pull that as
I like that hat too, actually. I'd win.
The hat is supreme.
It's supreme. She's like going along here with Mbenga and La'an. They're like, "Why are you wearing the hat?" And then throughout the whole episode, I'm like, "This is a winter planet. Why aren't you wearing gloves? Why aren't you wearing hats?" I'm with Ortegas here.
Are we supposed to know what this means?
Well, this is from the first episode where he does that signal to her.
Him and Lon keeps doing that. Are we supposed to know what
they need to
all
explain
about?
that. I need a flashback.
They keep doing that.
Well, I don't know. I my take on it is just like them signaling we know each other or something.
I feel like it's
It's
some
like
sort
it
of
seems
like
to be a
these
thing
two-
just those two know. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I
like
think
their
it's
thing.
some sort of like we were in a war battle thing, and this was our like hand signal or something when we.
Yeah,
met
but
each
it was
other.
him and Chapel that were in the war together.
I just took it as like he was when he walked up to that. She was having that meeting with that Klingon, or she was doing the drinking contest, and then he walked up. He didn't want to kind of like just go, "Hey, it's me. I just got me out on the Enterprise." That was just more of a subtle signal, like I'm here, or hello. Let's go talk somewhere
again.
else.
I believe it's some sort of like hand gesture and or symbol to let them like some sort of tribalism or cultural symbolism. They were probably in a battle or something together, and that was like their communication through whatever battle that they had to go through. This is what I've sort of surmised in my head. I mean, war has a lot of people, so it's possible that La'an, Nurse Chapel, and Mbenga all fought in different battles in the same war.
Question
Wanna know
here.
what my head surmised. Hey Jody, you want to know what my head surmised?
Sorry. I have like 8 messages waiting for me because I was playing hockey and I was just trying to get through them while I was doing that. Sorry.
No, they're all those two are TLC fans, and they're like left,
Oh, it could be. Yeah, it could be for it. For instance,
Or maybe they're just big Nelly fans.
just don't go chasing waterfalls, guys. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Just don't,
Stick to the streams
especially
and
in
the
space.
things that you're used to. But quick question here was from Sam. Who is the best Star Trek writer? Because we were kind of dumping on Christian Byer. Who's your favorite, Davan?
Well, it's hard to like parse out that DS9 writers room because they all
Yes.
sort of work together. Like I
Right.
could say Ira Bear, but like every episode
He wrote some
worked
of your
on.
most hated
Ro-
episodes.
Robert.
so-
Oh, but he wrote some of the best too, and so did Ron Moore, and so did
Mhm.
But Robert Hewitt Wolf wrote all the same episodes that Ira Bear wrote. They always
Yeah,
like
mostly
worked
they
together.
worked very
Right.
closely.
So those two are really good. If you want to talk about old, yeah, Sam,
DC
you're right. If you
DC
want to talk
Fontana.
about old writers, DC Fontana, or if
Mhm.
they want to talk about
Yeah, she
City
did a
on the
great
Edge of
job.
Forever,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
she
would
did some of
DC
the best
Fontana. Yeah, how about you, Jody?
What's that?
Who is your favorite writer if you have one?
Oh, DC Fontana for sure.
DC
yeah,
Fontana.
I think her writing was stellar.
And Murphy, do you have
She didn't get too far out, which is nice. So she really kept to the subject.
you
even
have
Brent Spiner, he wrote Star Trek Nemesis.
He's my least favorite writer. Actually, my least favorite Star
Why
Trek
do we
writer-
always got to shit on Nemesis? I like Nemesis.
I hate it.
It's terrible.
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 Anyway, so Murphy, do you have a favorite writer while we're on the subject?
My favorite writer was that one writer. I don't know. I don't know the writers enough to
Anyway.
to confidently.
Let's get back to the plot of the episode, though. So Ortega's very excited to go on the away mission, but she's told she can't go. She has to fly the Enterprise, and therefore Pike is going to fly the shuttle instead because he's a test pilot, we learn as well. And then she gets all mad
I'm
at
going to
Spock.
answer your question. I'm going to answer the question. Hold on. Far Beyond the Stars. Mark Scott Zickrey wrote some damn fine Star Trek episodes, including
which
Far
episode?
Beyond the Stars.
Oh,
Far Beyond the Stars
That's a good
for
episode.
one.
Well, what Harlan Ellison, who wrote City on the Edge of Forever, right? Like, so, there's
Exactly. Yeah.
we could have a whole podcast just on our favorite
We could.
writers.
We'll rank them. That'll be the next, maybe the next
Our S tier
tier ranking.
ranking system, yes.
No, I was
Anyway.
thinking we'd do villains.
I'm
next.
sure it'll be a shit show like the last one.
Sure
But
will.
anyway.
It was fantastic, Jody. You don't
Yeah.
have to be there.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
Anyway, we'll have a great time, guys. Anyway, so let's get back to the plot of the episode. The away team on the Galileo, which consists of M'Benga, Pike, and La'an. They're heading down to this planet, which is a tough one to get down to, Rigel 7.
Can I point out how
they do-
spacious that shuttlecraft is?
Yeah,
Yeah, they got
Okay.
some really pimp shuttles in this series.
it's very
Everything's
spacious.
spacious in the series. Like, look at Pike's quarters. Like,
Yeah.
you even look at like
Like Ortega's quarters was like
it's nice too.
8 times the size of that hotel room that they somehow afforded in the last.
They're bigger than like Picard's quarters on the Enterprise D. So
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say hers were equivalent to like TNG quarters, maybe, but like by like TOS
No, I
era,
think,
her quarters
I
were
think
crazy.
TNG quarters were not nearly as wide.
Pretty good.
I think
Worf
with
had
that,
pretty big
that
quarters.
scene in like
quarters.
Relics and TNG where Scotty's like, they're like, "Is this good enough, Captain?" And he's like, "My dad Admiral wouldn't even got quarters like this, you know."
He's never been in Pike's quarters.
No, clearly. No. They renovated by the time Kirk and Scotty were there. Yeah, so they land here. They have to use. They can't use any futuristic technology. They have the subdermal universal translators, but otherwise they're using like telescopes and pretty analog equipment here. But then we get the first version of the ringing in the ears and the memory loss here with La'an, where she kind of like is going along, and then all of a sudden, like they've been walking for a long time, and Pike and M'Benga are like, "What's wrong with you, man?" You know, there's sort of this disorientation. We don't totally know what's happening. And they kind of say, should we turn around and do a scan? Turns out they should have done that, and not kept going. I kept watching them here in this cold Arctic environment with no hats and no gloves. But,
tin
There's
foil
not
hats.
enough Nurse Chapel in this series.
yeah, true enough.
I can agree with that.
Don't
She's
know
pretty
about
great.
that.
Why
We
are
had,
you
like, almost
taking
like
your
a
chief
whole
medical
episode.
officer off the ship?
Well,
That's
this seems
the
like
thing
They
that
do
I
that all
was
the time.
Said
Because
he needs him.
he's
he
all-
doesn't need the medical officer. He needs the super soldier.
he's actually been recruited to this mission, not because he's a doctor, but because he's like a great fighter.
Yeah, well, that's true.
There's even a line
so he's
where
like a
M'Benga's like, I love being the doctor that's brought on a mission to be a soldier, basically.
Kick
It's
ass.
something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great fighter, but he's also a doctor. Yeah, it's kind of a weird dichotomy.
Sam has a question for the panel. Do you think that they will go to Talos in Strange New Worlds, and would you guys like to see that?
Yes and yes, they will. They will go.
I think they will. Yeah.
No and no. Is for my
Dave
answer.
says let it be.
They
Two yeses and one no. What
They
about you,
already
Murphy?
did that in season 2 of Star Trek Discovery. I'm over
Did
it.
they?
It's fine.
Oh
Kinda.
well, I
Does
blocked
Discovery
that out.
even
You're right,
exist?
they did.
It exists.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Discovery
Yeah.
exists.
See, that's your problem,
This
Dave.
show
Cube
is a spin-off
Discovery
of that
exists.
show. So
No,
This
this
show
a
is how to
prequel
do it right.
TOS.
Yeah.
this show is the superior to the show it's a spin-off of, but it happens.
This
Right.
show
So they
is
approach
proof
this,
that the other show existed.
All right, I'll be right back, fellas. Don't get excited, Jody. I'll be back.
All right. Just love the shot of this alien planet here, the strange new world in
I
this
think
episode.
I really hate him or something.
Rigel 7, you guys like the way it looked at night?
I think the set pieces look good.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
They're coming along here. They're scouting it out, and then they encounter the guards, and we see that the guards here before that actually have Starfleet phaser rifles, which they're like, "Uh-oh, this is even worse than we thought." It's not that they have the Starfleet symbol on the gate of the castle and things like that. Then Mbenga shows up, and then these guards show up, who we'll find out are protected from the radiation by these helmets.
Tinfoil
'cause it's-
hats. Come on, tell me you
Tinfoil
don't like
hats.
those
Like,
things with little
why
tinfoil
did it take
hats.
almost the entire goddamn episode for people to clue into this?
I don't know.
Like,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
should have
I
been
was-
a pretty quick one.
Yeah. And so they're talking to these guys, and they thought Lon wants to fight them, but they don't. And then they get kind of like, they say, "We know who you are, Starfleet." And there's kind of like the jigs up here. Yeah, the twisty bits. And then another phase out where we get like so we get some interesting time jumps with this like memory loss disease that they're dealing with throughout the episode.
I'm a
They're
bit
taken
worried.
they're taken into the castle with good old yeoman Zach Nguyen, who is now the king of this Rigel 7. He was left behind. They thought he was dead. Guess what? He's not. He's actually
They should have
here.
just called him Glenn.
Do you know this guy?
Hmm?
This guy who
He looks familiar, but I never.
he's a
looked into it.
Canadian actor. I looked him up, but I've never actually seen him before.
It's awful in this episode.
You didn't like
his
him?
acting was I
I
thought
like
his
the
acting
whole
was
premise of this,
awful. I
though.
felt like they literally could have cast anyone and they would have been a better actor.
Yeah, he was not the best part of the episode for me. He was a bit
Like a guy saying lines, but saying lines badly.
well, you heard it here. I didn't think he was bad. I didn't think he was good either. So the guy who plays the old man, he was very good in the episode, I thought, but we haven't got to him yet. So anyway,
The
so
old man's great.
Pike's trying to reconcile. He thought he left this guy behind, and he's mad at Pike because he never bothered to check if he was actually dead or not. They just told him he was dead. So kind of an interesting trope. And so he's like, "You're going to suffer if this planet changes you. You're going to go through the same thing I went through with the memory loss and the forgetting." So they take Pike away. And then we get kind of this time jump, and we end up in the cage. They're in the cage in the cold. We know that the temperature drops quite a bit here at night. It's already cold enough for snow to be on the ground. So this would be not a fun place to be.
Lick
and-
the bars.
Yeah, don't look up. Don't. Yeah,
Murphy,
exactly.
why so serious?
Wait, what are we doing? Who are we? Wait, who am I?
No, there's a comment. Murphy looks so serious.
Yeah.
They clearly don't know you, Murphy.
I thought them being like disorientated within the cage, I thought it was all really good, well written, well acted, liked all of this here, where all the characters are like, they don't even know who each other are anymore. Right. And so we're like, uh-oh, our people are in some deep trouble here, but back on the Enterprise, we find out that they're in the same trouble. Like Uhura is the first one to experience symptoms, and she's forgetting things, and she can't remember if she did things. And so number one's like, maybe you should go to sick bay. And then they say Ortega's, who was too integral not to leave the ship, but she can leave the bridge for this, even though there's a lot of other people on the bridge who seemingly are doing nothing, like Spock in this
Spock
scene.
never does anything. He just sits there.
Yeah,
He does way more in TOS.
he does do way more in TOS. But so yeah, Ortegas is put on escort Uhura to sick bay. That's the next scene with Chapel trying to figure out what's happening with her memory. What's going on here? Is she infected? Is it going to spread to the rest of the crew? Can they isolate her? But
More of this Uhura, like not more Chapel. I love this actress who plays Uhura. Give me like twice as much of her.
she's really good. I'm sure we'll get more of her this season. And I couldn't help but think of Jody about the episode of original series where Uhura will lose her entire memory to that like robot thing.
Yes.
That comes along later, and then she basically
enough, I thought the exact same thing.
she gets her memory wiped, and she basically has to learn like everything
all over again. Yeah.
overall again, like who she is, how to talk, everything. And
it's canon too. Like it's literally that episode is it, and then it goes back to normal again. Like you never hear about it again.
So the Uhura we see in the movies wouldn't even remember these events, which is kind of interesting. Anyway,
Exactly.
so talking about it, but then I think they start to get a call after this sick bay scene that like more people are starting to have problems in engineering, and Chapel has a full blown epidemic on her hands. Also, like when Mbenga's not there are no other doctors on the Enterprise. It's just like Chapel's kind of for sick bay.
Well, and that's the thing that kind of bothers me, because I understand like they want to recruit him because he's like a super warrior or whatever, but you're leaving a nurse to run and I don't know what the actual amount of people are on the ship right now, but I'm guessing it's probably around
300, 400.
Is it actually that high? I thought it was around 80 or so.
It's like 150 or something.
So 150. So if there's anything happens, she has to deal with all of it.
It's like 300 people on this ship, or 400.
Listen, Jody,
On the Enterprise in those days?
Listen, Jody,
Yeah.
There's one thing that 70s show and Scrubs has taught me. It's that nurses keep you alive.
It's true. That is true.
Yeah, like I'll put my hands in the life of nurses over a doctor any day.
Fair enough.
Every day.
But
all day.
There would be a second doctor. And we know in canon that Chapel ends up becoming a medical doctor in her own right, which is mentioned by McCoy in Star Trek 1, the motion picture. So she does go on to become a doctor, but she's not at this time. Anyway, so back to the planet is the next scene here, where they're kind of waking up in their cages. I was like, why didn't you take some gloves with you, Pike? Would have been smart, because his hands were getting all cold. And this is where we first meet the old man, who's like, they're having a rough forgetting. Give them a break, because they have to go to do manual labor duty, smash rocks or something, and cut wood. And they're all disorientated. And so this guy comes along. He's one of my favorite parts of the episode. Trying to remember who plays him.
I don't think I've seen him before. He doesn't look familiar as an actor.
I have seen him before, and I couldn't put it. I felt like I maybe seen him on Game of Thrones, but
his name
looks
is
like
Reed.
the guy from Game of Thrones.
His name is Reed Birney. He is from Virginia. He was in House of Cards. He was in The Menu.
I saw the menu. So yeah,
I
that's
think
probably
I
where I've seen
remember
him
him
before.
from House of Cards. Then maybe
He's in The Handmaid's Tale.
Okay.
He's been
I've
in a
seen that
bunch of
too.
things. Yeah, he's got a long storied career
okay.
going all the way back to 1976. So
Wow.
he's been in the game a long time. Anyway, so then they're being forced to do work. Like, I guess these rocks, or some parts of these rocks, will protect you from the radiation. That's what the castle is made out of. He's like, there are the what do they call the Kalar? There are the castle Kalar and the field Kalar, and don't cause too much trouble, or you're gonna get problems. And Lon just wants to fight. And again, they don't even know each other.
As someone who cuts wood on a regular basis, if you ever want a lesson on how to not cut wood, just look at Mbenga there.
I think I have a shot here.
That's some bad wood cut.
Or maybe I deleted it. There's a shot where you see him like, I think we know him.
Yeah.
Because Mbenga's wearing green. Their clothes are supposed to represent what their jobs are, and he's supposed to cut the wood, and they're supposed to smash the rocks. But they go, look, we have no calluses on our hands, and whatever.
Yeah, I admit with Davan, he was cutting wood wrong. We were all robbed of an Mbenga axe swinging scene, and I feel that they need to justify.
Yeah, when they're like, "You chop the wood."
This is so boring.
This scene? Oh, there he is. There he
Yes.
is, cutting the wood. Yeah, he's not a good saw guy. Not a good lumberjack, but he can fight. So there you go. So
Yeah, he could have got through that whole log with one axe.
Sam's comment:
10 minutes.
The Handmaid's Tale will scar you for life. That is absolutely correct.
yeah, well, even worse if you're a woman, I'm sure.
Yes.
Or is it
Eventually,
a
they decide
prophecy?
that they're going to fight these guards. They don't like smashing the rocks, and they're going to fight back. So there's kind of because they give the old man a hard time, and then they start fighting. The first Pike starts fighting the old guy, and then I think like Lon gets into the fight, and then they're going back and forth. But she ends up getting cut across the chest here and injured and wounded, and she kind of goes down, even though they kind of managed to win. And so
They put her on ice. They didn't fridge on. They just put her on ice for the rest of the episode.
Right. So they have to. The old man's like, "This is unexpected, but I will try to help you as much as I can, even though I don't remember yesterday." And so back on the Enterprise, they're explaining to number one, "Hey, we got this neurological thing. People's brains are interfered with." Here's Chapel explaining it to Una, which she starts to feel the effects of it, and then eventually, like Spock's handing out the pads, like, "This is who you are. Remember who you are." That's kind of their solution as they're dealing with it. They're kind of realizing that they're probably dealing with it worse on the planet if they are dealing with this up in space. Again, more looks here between Chapel and Spock, and that was even the previously on that they have like a weird romance thing. And
Yeah. Okay. So my thought about this was like they let us to believe in the previously on there was going to be more playthrough with this, and there was all that talk with the old man on the planet about how love is a strong emotion and you'll connect with that. So I thought there was going to be
Something
more play between Chapel and Spock and them kind of forgetting, but they realize they have an emotional connection, so through that they sort of remember and thus maybe bring the ship.
That would have been a better episode.
Yeah, you're a better writer than Kirsten Beyer.
Yeah, you're a better
I
writer
was
than Kristen
expecting-
Beyer. This episode's not holding up as well on this. It just like felt good after like the 2 I gave last episode, but I don't know. This one's looking
little
like
bar.
Better
was
than
a
last
far
week's
from-
episode.
Yeah. Anyway, but Una ends up getting relieved of duty, and then I think Spock has to take over here through all that. And then
They
he comes
just
on.
don't want Una to ever do anything in this show.
They really limit Rebecca Romaine's like screen time on this show for some reason. I don't know
I don't
why.
get
It's
it.
really good in the
Expensive,
courtroom
guys.
episode.
Come on.
Yeah, but she doesn't get as much screen time as some of the others. But anyway,
And I'm starting to get sick of Lon now. Like, there's just so much.
Yeah,
of
I'm
her
sick
now.
of
It's
Lon.
basically like a 3-episode, 3-part on. Like it was like
You never much cared
last
for Lon in the
episode
first
all
place.
on.
Well, I
Pretty
like
much
the
a good portion
idea
of the one before it.
of stretching out her thing and getting more of a backstory of her. I like that idea, but it's just
Yeah, they yada yada.
this is an ensemble cast. Can we have the ensemble cast, please?
we
Well,
kind
this
of
is
do.
making
Not-
episodes
not the two
around the
people?
Okay,
the
so
actors with
this
the
is
least amount of gravitas, though. Like they have Anson
Okay, but
Mount.
you guys got to think
they
about it
have
this way. This is
Chapel,
episode 4
have, like-
of the new season, right? And
Yep.
this is the first
still
episode where we
time.
actually have like an ensemble cast doing a lot.
How
of
many
the
episodes
bits.
did we have last season? 10?
10.
Okay,
We get
so
10. we
this
get
is
10
the
this year.
14th episode of this, and I'm still dealing with this. So it's like,
Well, okay. Well, reserve judgment for the end of the season. But just while I'm on this shot, we get this thing here where Tegas is given like by Spock this like pad with her name and information, her biography. So she's actually she was born in Colombia, where we can see here on the pad. So interesting.
kind of makes sense.
She's Colombian.
Yeah. She's Colombian. Anyway, so her and Spock are kind of all that's left, and we kind of see the effects of the radiation are also wearing on them. So they're kind of losing their grip on things as they're going to come back to the planet. The next scene here where the old man takes them to their hut, the field Kalar or whatever. Every time they say Kalar, I kept thinking of the Kalon from
Yes.
the Orville. But
Every
anyway.
time they say that, I'm like, oh, jeez.
Yeah. Anyway, he takes them into their hut. This is a very spacious hut, by the way. But Lon is like dealing with her injury, and she's not doing
being
so well.
spacious.
They know that Mbenga knows he's a healer, but he doesn't know anything else. He doesn't even know his name, but he knows that he can probably help with the right things. And so there's this long scene here in the hut where they're like, well, what do we do? And the old man's like, just give it up. You're gonna forget everything. Just forget it. Don't even worry about your past. Just try to be happy here in the present and live in the moment. And and they kind of know they can't do that, but they're kind of they don't really have a lot of information
I
otherwise.
wasn't a fan of this scene. This whole like, okay, I know what my purpose is. It's like, okay, but I don't want to help you. Let's just go back to the status quo. And he's like, yeah, but I know what my purpose is. I want to get my memories back. And then he's like, okay, if you know what your purpose is, then I'm gonna help you out because that's what I'm meant to do is help out people for the purpose at the moment. And it's just like,
How does
such a,
he even
like-
remember that?
Yeah, like
He's totem.
Yeah, he's
I guess
totem.
the totem
Like,
tells them it's like if somebody needs help and they're very determined, well, we gotta help.
He has like this very ingrained culture that is based on forgetting everything else about who he is, But we see here like there's this totem here in the hut where it's got like this carving of like their story and how things go and whatever and what's in the castle, And Pike's learning about it as he goes. I don't know why we're gonna get to find why this episode is even called Among the Lotus Eaters. I'm still not clear after the episode.
As the botanist of the UFP, I gotta tell you, fellas, don't eat your lotuses.
Don't eat them.
No,
Not a
for
good
you?
idea.
not edible.
Yeah. Anyway, so Pike, he's like, I will help you to
Guess
figure
you
this
forget
out, even though
memory if you eat a lotus.
yeah. And then they talk about like this. We didn't even talk about the charm that Pike has around his neck that was given to him by Captain Battelle at the beginning of the episode, but that it's
Did that
important.
serve any purpose? I was confused about that. Like, what was the point of
Yes,
that?
yes,
He
it
brings
did.
it up
It
again.
did serve
It
a
did.
purpose. Yes, it did. Okay.
Did it
She
give
gave
him
it
his
to him as a
memory
gift.
back?
Okay. Do you want to let me finish
No,
my thought before you want
no.
to interject, or no? Okay, cool. So the
No,
purpose
you
that
know how
she-
our show works, Murphy.
Please proceed, World 9.
She gave Mrs. McMurray gave Pike the pendant,
Mrs.
and it
McMurray.
explained that it was like a totem for sailors. It's basically like a totem that brings lost sailors home. So it's meant to symbolize that. So he was super excited because it's an old treasured sailor gift. But obviously he doesn't remember that, but he remembers the emotion around it. So it's because of the pendant around his neck that sort of grounds him to the reality of who he is and gives him the driving force to move forward. And then he goes back to her and he's like, this brought this sailor home. So thank you for this gift. So yes, it did have an importance. Not because it just
The
don't think it
longer
didn't
we
because
talk
you're
about
being
this
bored
episode,
and
the
not
less
paying
I like
attention.
it.
Okay, well, we're almost at the end, guys. So after they decided to go on their quest, and I don't know, really, they brought La'an with them, even though she's injured and she's got a fever. They kind of leave her here by the castle on this rock.
This, it was good for a belly wound. Making
This is right up there with
walk.
Back to the Future 2 when they leave Jennifer in the thing.
The porch in the
Yeah.
alternate 1985.
Yeah, it's like, why?
Yeah, just seemed like, well, we have to do something. I'm like, leave her in the hut, like
Yeah,
you don't
like,
need to
leave her with warmth at least. Like,
Yeah, anyway,
no, let's
but-
leave her. Let's leave her on the side of the road with a rock
But-
here. And
They're going into the castle because they believe there's a casket in the castle that contains their memories. But the old man doesn't want his memories. He knows that he's got some kind of a painful past that he can't remember. He's like, I have these tattoos and I covered them up. I don't know why, but I know I don't want to know. There's a pain in my past and I don't want to know. Reminds me a little bit of Star Trek 5, guys. I need my pain. I can't.
It has to be more of a memento.
what does God need a star?
Share your pain with me.
Share your pain.
You will be strengthened by the joining,
Yes, exactly.
strengthened by the sharing.
Go back and listen to our Star Trek 5 radio theater, which is available on our channel.
I play a menacing cyborg.
Which even is way more entertaining than this episode.
And Jody played a great god in that one.
I was
too.
God. Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
so
was
that's
God.
my ego very good.
And Murphy
Yeah.
was Kirk, and I
Yes.
was McCoy. So go back and listen to
There you
that, guys.
Oh, pickles. Oh, pickles.
I promise you, it'll be a better
Dave
listen than this
McCoy.
episode.
Yeah. Oh, pickle juice.
Oh, pickle juice.
Oh, biscuits and gravy. Okay.
Oh, dude.
Anyway, so then they're headed to the castle, and Benga and Pike, they're on this quest, but then more memory loss. And then there's kind of like, we go to the Enterprise quick, where Erica and Spock are also dealing with their own issues and their own memory loss. They don't know who they are, and they don't know what the hell's going on. And Spock doesn't
I will
know.
give it to the episode. Sorry to interrupt. I will give it to the episode. As much as I hated the tinnitus thing, I did like the effective use of editing with the tinnitus and how they would sort of jump cut to like a new
Yes.
position, and it's like, oh, they lost time. Like that was really effective editing and really good in the form of storytelling. So it was sort of a double-edged sword. I hated how they did it, but I did like that effect.
I agree. And Erica just leaves the bridge in the middle of the crisis, even though it's like red alert, or red alarm, or whatever. So she gets on the turbo lift. She ends up down on the lower level, and then we see the entire crew of the Enterprise is just lost. They're just wandering around. She even
one guy's curled up in a ball.
This is home.
Yeah. She gets in contact with Chapel, and then Chapel just kind of walks away. And this guy who's crawled up, and dealing with his, he looks like he's having a rough day.
Anxiety there.
Yeah, not knowing. So she's like, "Take me home." So the computer is still working.
I liked how they used this effect though, because this is something that they did in TNG,
with
where they would light up
thing.
the panels and take you where you needed to go. I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, so she's kind of going along. She ends up in her quarters, which again, very spacious.
I would love to live there.
Yeah.
Well,
Great. Office.
It's
office
huge.
quarter. She got some great views. I think it's the same set. They just keep redressing for different people.
I feel
I'm
like
sure.
it's Spock's set, but it's just redressed.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, the officers all probably have
Certainly,
very closely
yeah.
matching quarters, so it would.
Yeah.
Well,
But then
I mean,
the rocks
the
start
court-
coming in. Yeah.
Well, the courtroom in the previous episode, that was the same head honcho meeting room for Discovery.
Yeah, it was
for all
it was
the
like the
captains.
Federation headquarters in Discovery. Yeah, that they redressed as well.
You might as well just reuse it. Yeah.
But so she's not on the bridge. She's not flying the ship. So the ship is just getting hit with the asteroid belt. She's like,
Stop the rocks.
Unable to comply.
"Stop the rocks," which I like. Can you just stop all this shaking? Nope. It's up to you. Anyway, so Pike has a little bit of that flash here. He loses time, but he's in the middle of a fight here. In the middle, when he wakes up, sort of kind of comes to. We see him. I don't know what this. Mbenga's fighting this guard over here in the distance, but this guy that is looking forward doesn't seem to notice too much.
They can't hear with their tinfoil hats on.
They can't hear. It's also soundbite. But then Pike starts getting into it. They have a fight. And Mbenga gets shot in this fight with one of the phaser rifles, and he has to kind of hang back, and Pike has to kind of go on. And Mbenga's just going to create cover fire, I guess, or whatever. Well, Pike is somehow going to get past that drawbridge or that gate. And anyway, and so they go on here back to the Enterprise, and so Ortega's is dealing with her things. She makes some incredible facial expressions throughout this little thing where she's going.
I fly the ship.
Yeah, she's one of the stronger points of this episode too.
Yeah,
I think she's
really
one of
good.
the stronger points of this whole series, quite honestly.
I'm a pilot.
I'm a pilot.
Pilot?
I fly the ship.
I like
Primitive.
her character better than some of the other characters on this.
She was really funny. She was the way she delivered it. Her performance was really good. She's one of my favorite, actually, of this new crew.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe my favorite helmsman, way above Sulu at the moment.
Very well, Sulu, yeah.
Until she goes bare chested with a sword, I don't think you could even compare.
We got more seasons to come. Don't worry, it's not over.
All right.
So if
will.
she runs down the corridor bare chested with a sword, it's over.
She's
Sulu-
had a sword
wins.
already.
Yeah, she has had a
She
sword.
wasn't
That's
bare
right.
chested.
Yeah.
Yes.
She comes back and she's just like, "I'm Erica and I fly the ship," And
Spock's like, okay.
Spock's
Right.
like, "I don't know if you know what you're doing." She's like, "Give me a hand." And he's like, "All right." So Spock. What is he gonna do? He has no idea what he's doing anyway. So
He's like, I don't know who I
They've
am.
almost
and,
made Spock
I should
fairly
know that.
useless in this series. Like he's
Yeah, pretty much.
compared to the original series where he was always the MacGuffin who always had the answer. Yeah, they made this version of Spock much more fallible, for
Yeah.
better or worse.
I think it can be better.
Yeah,
You
this
know,
is
and so she-
sometimes he's learning.
She flies it. She's blasting through here back to the planet where Pike is taking
Is-
on all.
This scene is the best scene in this whole episode.
Yeah, he's
Because
coming in with
when
the
you
rifle.
see Pike start losing his shit, and then he kind of regains his senses for a second there, and he's like, "Wait a second, I'm just as bad as everybody
That
else."
moment where he
Reflecting
blocks a
of the-
phaser fire with a tray he grabs off the table. I'm like, would that even work? I guess. And so,
I don't know,
it did. So I guess it does.
but I think this is the strongest scene in the whole episode.
he comes up, he just charges Zach. He's like, "Yeah, your own guys I just barricaded us inside. It's just you and me in here, man." And he just starts beating down Zach, or
That guy's kicking
Zachariah.
him on the ground and shit too. Like he's just full out with this kid.
Yeah, he's just like, you believe that myth about the casket with our memories? And Pike's just not having it too much. He goes kind of crazy
Just
on him here.
progressively becomes
Pike's like,
one
I
mad
believe in
guy.
my foot.
Yeah, he gets really pissed off here.
I love the war
Zach,
face though.
uh,
His war face is crazy.
Couple shots here, back on the because they're kind of intercutting between. Erica is flying the ship here, having a lot of fun while she's doing it. Whereas Spock
She's
is
got a great smile, that woman.
she does. Spock's like, oh my god, you know.
Do we want to pull away from this? Just like, no time. We gotta thread the needle.
Yeah,
I did like this though. This was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Where she does that spin maneuver, and just
spin
kinda
move,
pours
and
it out
it's
and then goes
phasering through the. She's like, yeah. Spock's like, we might want to like fly around that. She's like, no time, and then comes through here. You know, so love it. The casket here. This is just the one box that got left behind by the Enterprise whenever. And so Pike's kind of going through it, trying to figure out, and you know, he's like,
I do like how he's
loser.
got this tricorder though.
He's like, I think I know what this is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
And then like so Zach starts mocking him about things, and he's just like he gets all pissed off, and he starts coming up and beating his ass some
I
more.
love this.
It's very Kirk.
I love seeing him like get unhinged. I think Anson Muntz does a fantastic job of that.
Right. Well, to the point where he looks like he's gonna kill him, right? You know,
Starfleet.
Yep.
not very Starfleet, but then all of a sudden, like his memories sort of come back to him, and he's kind of himself again. But the emotion of it was definitely because earlier on in the episode, Zach says, "This place changes you," you know, and then he kind of comes to his senses. He goes, "No, it doesn't. You know, I am who I am. I'm still who I am, even I can't remember. And I'm really sorry for you, Zach, that we left you behind. But everything you've done since then is on you. You know, it's not an excuse. You know." There's kind of like a quiet acceptance there. He's like, you know, I'm sorry. I mourned you, Zach. Good scene, good speech.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoyed it, you know, between them. Then everything starts getting cleared up. Lon gets her medical care. They do their little, or it comes a little bit a moment later with their little smudge across the face. The old man is now
They
there.
had their little cot where they're like, oh, it was kind of nice not remembering things. And they're like, yeah, but sometimes having the pain of memories is okay if it means having the good memories.
Chill all through the night.
I think I'm gonna this will be like our new Star Trek symbol. The old man is like now that he's inside the castle, anybody who's inside the castle starts to regain their memories because they're protected from the radiation. And he remembers, I think what he said, he had a son that died.
Dead sons.
And yeah,
Like a son and family,
Maybe-
basically. He lost
But
family.
he's
really
happy.
a Debbie Downer, that guy.
yeah, really good. But his performance was so strong.
Yeah, he mentions how he had inked out like things on his arm
Yes,
that he
he had
didn't want to remember.
suppressed his pain. and all
Beware
that.
of John G.
Yeah. He talks about his totem, and she's like, "Did you ever figure out where that little necklace, that totem thing on your neck came from?" He's like, "Somebody I owed an apology to." Which now then we get our little montage. The crew is back on the ship. Everyone's okay again.
Montage.
Well, quick little montage. You know, they're going to get rid of. Well, there's a question here about taking this asteroid that's causing this radiation and causing everybody to lose their memories. Is this a violation of the Prime Directive or not, guys? And Pike says no.
argued that it was unnatural to begin with, so
It was this asteroid.
Well, that's okay. So does natural only refer to your planet, or does it refer to the universe at large? In which
I don't
your
know about
planet
you guys.
inhabits?
I was more surprised the fact that Vulcans didn't show up to look at it.
They don't like comets. So
That's right. They don't like comets.
right, yeah, they don't find them interesting at all.
Oh, it's boring.
There's nothing
Anyway,
scientific about it.
So they decide that they're gonna fix Rigel 7, get this asteroid that's causing the exotic memory loss. I did like here with the two shuttles pulling up this asteroid, and then like we see the sort of the handoff here to the Enterprise, which then tractors it out.
Give me the rock.
yeah, Ortega pulls a Riker maneuver and throws a rock.
She throws a rock, not at a ship, but she does throw it. And then there's kind of this reconciliation because I guess the Cayuga came in here to do a prisoner transfer with Zach, who is now captured. She's like, "So you called me just to do a prisoner transfer? You know, a routine prisoner?" He's like, "Well, I had a rough couple days down there in Rigel 7." He reconciles.
How you know? That's what he should have said.
Yeah, how do you like me now? But she's mad at him to
Cocksucking
start.
gin and tonics on the table.
he
I would gin and tonic,
apologizes and talks about, he's come around and he wants to pursue their relationship, guys, and comes down to a kiss and they all made up.
How it'll
This is
go in the next
McMurray's a
30
whore.
minutes.
The dry
Should
is
have dry
McMurray's
humped him. That would have been very McMurray.
That would have been more McMurray, yeah. Or maybe a scene with a hot tub.
Yeah.
Listen, all I'm
Do you
saying
guys
is
like
when
them?
I saw this, I wanted to see
Yes,
him.
I do.
I want to see Anson Mount appear in Letterkenny and hit on Mrs. McMurray for an episode.
That would be cool if
I think
they did
that
the
would
little
be
bit of a
If he
crossover
crosses
there.
over to that show, yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be great.
Is that
Right.
show still going?
I think
Oh
so.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
So anyway, we pull back here as they kiss. The end of the episode. I love how I loved that scene where on the ship. I don't know if we've done this before in the show where his quarters are, but they're right on the front section here of the saucer.
I think they would be. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's where they are, and that's
Well,
the end
the
of
officer, all the officers are on deck 6.
Right, well, that's deck
So
6.
I guess that's deck 6. Yeah.
So, guys, that's the plot of the episode and the screenshots and all that. Let's get into. Do we have any fun facts beyond what we've already talked about? Let's have a look. I would like to know what this title means.
Fun fact: you don't need NyQuil if you want to watch this episode.
This episode is a
Oh,
sequel
sorry.
to the secondary plot
Better
point.
than the last one, but that's not saying much.
Yeah.
Okay, but what does among the Lotus Eaters mean? Is this like some clever
It could be from a poem or something.
what?
In addition to a model
Homer's
of
Odyssey?
Constitution class ship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In addition to a model of a Constitution class ship representing the Enterprise, Lieutenant Ortega also has a model of a Walker class ship in her quarters. The Walker was seen in the first season of Star Trek Discovery, represented by the USS Shenzhou.
That was Walker
Shenzhou.
class. Shenzhou.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, the
So guys,
Christopher Plummer connection, General Chang, and Undiscovered Country.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
so a
Plus,
Lotus,
his daughter played the villain in Picard.
so a Lotus Eater is any people in Homer's Odyssey subsisting on the Lotus and living in the dreamy indolence it induces. So it's sort of like living in a dream world.
People who
facing the-
poison themselves.
Yeah,
basically.
kind of like the field Kalar. Whether it be
Mm.
willingly or
Opium addicts.
or them too. Okay, guys, we're gonna rate this episode. Among the Lotus Eaters.
This series or this season is certainly not as good as the last one.
Well, we're only 4 in. Come on. You know.
We're almost
Okay.
halfway through the season. Dave.
Don't
Yeah,
listen
no,
to
and they
these
only have 10
Debbie
episode
Downers.
seasons. That's significant.
All right. Well, come on. We're not even halfway. Okay, Davin, what's your rating for this episode? Let's start with you.
Well, I gave the last one a 2. This one's probably twice as good, so I'll go 4.
What?
Oh,
Wow.
Okay. Well, I will go next then. This episode was better than a 4 for sure. I'm going 8.5.
what? Do you
Jody?
watch Star Trek?
I do.
Have you seen Deep Space Nine?
I have.
Have you rated them
Speak from Star
8.5?
Some of them much higher.
What do you expect?
And do you think
from
this
Star
is as
Trek?
good as those?
Okay, Jody, you're up next.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna give it. This is hard for me. I'm gonna do 6.5.
Okay. Oh, 6.5. Okay.
Yeah, you get that 0.1 in there, Dave.
Yeah, you don't take anything away. And Murphy, please help us
I
find a
would
consensus.
have given it a 9 because I was having a lot of fun with the episode, but
What?
it's going to lose a point because of the tinnitus nonsense, so I'm going to give it an 8.
Okay. All right. Oh,
Sam says
I
this
was
episode
having
is
fun.
a 0.
Unlike
What?
Debbie Downer Davan here, and super bored Jody. I enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed the premise of a Starfleet officer being stuck on a planet, taking over the populace, becoming a king, using the influence of it. It fell off the wheels.
It
in the
sounds
last
familiar,
episode,
doesn't
but
it?
it had a good promise.
yes.
This has only been done like 3 or 4 other times, but
So have, like,
the
half
listeners
the
will
other
back me up.
episodes. They're all just
We're gonna find
retelling
out.
of Star Trek
Please
stories
let us
in
know in the
ways.
comments whether it be right now or probably in a day or two
No.
when some of you see this review.
See,
But
I catch shit for my ratings, but the problem is with the rest of you guys. I listen to all your other friggin' review podcasts. Is you guys will slag an episode for 45 minutes and then give it an 8. And then the very next episode, you guys will praise an episode, the entire episode, and give it an 8. You guys just give everything 8s. Like, come on.
I
There's
clearly don't.
differences in Star Trek episodes. No, Jody, I'm impressed.
I've only
with your
given one
6.5, but even that's quite high.
I
for
think
this.
I try to be consistent with how I rate things.
With 8s.
I mean,
Well,
I can see. I got a 6, a 9.5.
I'm
and a
not
10 on
sure
the
you're
last
the
3
one that
episodes
should
of
be
the
judging
previous
him, though,
season.
Davan.
yeah, you go on polar
Judge-
extremes with your ratings, you know. So
It used to be
Exactly.
it was either a 1 to 3 or a 7 to 10 for you. You never put anything in the middle.
That's how Star Trek episodes generally work.
like if I look at your Prodigy ratings here, Davin, you give a lot
Yeah.
of 8s and 9s and stuff like that, right?
Well,
Like,
I've
Prodigy's
given
quite
Picard
good.
episodes
Prodigy's quite
lower
great.
ranks, and you think
Come
I'm a
on now.
monster.
yeah. Davin, right now you're averaging for season 2 a 6 out of 10.
Yeah,
So
that's fit. That's about right.
right.
That's the way
Anyway,
I feel about this season so far. Yeah.
This episode so far is a 6.8 out of 10 on our average tonight because me and Murphy are on the higher end and you and Jody are a little bit in the middle. So, and we'll see what Adam, I'm sure Adam will give this a pretty good review.
I'll give it a 10 because
Yeah,
Adam's
no.
the same way. He'll be like, "Oh, this episode was okay. I give it a 9."
So the only
Probably.
thing that bothers me is that I think this episode is better than last week's episode, but yet we've rated it collectively lower.
I do agree it's better than last week's episode and I gave it a better rating. So I am
So
consistent.
did I.
That's what I'm saying. Last week's episode was like, I just watched it again and it's awful, and you guys were giving it 10s. It's crazy. I don't even know
I
what
gave it an
world
8.
you guys are living
And
in.
I think I was a little bit
You
generous.
give everything an 8, Dave.
I think it's probably more like a 7.6, but I rounded it up for you because I know you don't like.
I gave last episode a 10 because it's like it was in Toronto. That's all it needed for me.
Yeah, we already know the reason why you
hometown here. So, well, not his hometown.
It wasn't on the merits of
Look
the
at your
episode.
ratings, Dave. You have a range of 9.5 to 8, and it never gets anywhere beyond that.
I like this show, Subi. You know what are you gonna do?
All right. Either way, we all have our opinions. And as we said, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one.
If I hate an episode, I'll rate it low. But I haven't hated an episode of Strange New Worlds.
8.
Look at my Picard ratings. You will see I have not been generous to that show.
But he didn't like Picard, so that's the reason why.
I did this season. I gave
That's true, actually. You did.
season 3. I averaged an 8.5
This
in season
season
1
was
and 2.
great,
I
yeah.
averaged a 6.6 in season 2 and a 6.9 in season 1. So like I don't
That's fair.
only give it out. And then if you look at my Deep Space Nine ratings, I'm all over the place, up and down. What am I averaging? in Deep
And just
Space
so you
Nine?
know,
I mostly
Jody,
Alright.
like it.
I don't
everybody
think we
has
need
an
to spend
asshole.
10 minutes defending Dave. I
Right.
think Dave has an opinion, and we need
I'm-
to
I
respect
just-
that.
I feel like
Just
after this many
so you know.
podcasts,
Just so you know, Jody, not everyone has an asshole. I recently found out in the B and Ian with the Jordan podcast that he had a friend that didn't have an asshole, and he had to get it medically induced. So he had a man-made asshole.
Well, I was just kind of saying the saying, really. But anyway.
Fun facts! Come on, guys! Fun facts.
That was more fun than half of this episode, so that's cool.
yeah. Okay, guys. Well, that's it for tonight.
But you
Thanks
know
for being
what's
with
fun,
us.
Dave?
It's fun. What's fun, Jody?
All the other things we do on this channel.
That's right, Jody. You're right. Thanks for bringing that up. You Live Long and Podcast has all kinds of great Star Trek podcasts all the time in different colors and different divisions, just like real Starfleet. Like our Command division, which talks about episodes like this, new episodes and old, whether it be Strange New Worlds, Picard, the new ones that come out, Lower Decks, or sometimes old ones like Deep Space Nine and in Enterprise. We got Jody. We're almost done season 3 of Enterprise.
We are. We got one more episode left, which we're not totally sure if it's going to happen this. It might be
Monday or
postponed
not,
today.
because I got to go to Nova Scotia, but we'll see what
Unfortunately,
it's going to look like. And so
That went
but
off
we have
for
our
a week.
Davin's got the science division
He does.
where
Oh,
they
yeah.
talk about- they can do probes.
We're gonna
Gavin loves the probe.
Yeah, I do. That's how you find out the best information. In the Q-Torch division, we're gonna probably do a treble trunk this weekend.
Oh, Chuckle Junk.
Uh,
Yeah. And check
we got
out
lots
the
of comics here to talk about. Look at this sweet Vic Fontaine cover. That's some sweet Vic
James Darren.
Fontaine.
and check out the operations division. Davin, we got to get back to Ryza and Star Trek Online and do some get
do.
that to the Low Nut Festival. Get that Hyperion battle cruiser. Huzzah.
I am known for my low nuts.
Yeah, you're low nuts. I just found out that that episode that we were really drunk for, that we were talking to Jody on Star Trek Enterprise, That was where the Low Nut Festival was referenced. So I guess we weren't paying that much attention.
No, you definitely weren't.
Yeah, yeah. But we had a fun time.
yourself,
Go back and watch
Seagull
that
Balls?
podcast.
It was
That's
a fun time.
Yeah,
Some of us had a fun time on that one.
yeah. David and I definitely did. Anyway, so
Dave's coming back to Nova Scotia.
yeah, so it could be
Let's do a
another great
podcast.
podcast could be on the horizon.
I'm gonna have
if
to
you
make my way over to Nova Scotia.
If you didn't know, Live Long in Podcast as a channel is part of a
right.
greater network of podcasts called the United Federation of Podcasts, which features all kinds of amazing shows done by a lot of the podcasters you see here and others, in different formats.
We're the most
like,
important ones, though.
well, of course. Like Hold Up last night was with Davan and Murphy, their show talking about movies. They were talking about boats last night with Kevin Millard. Das Boot.
I only watched
Yeah, we
the
were, yeah.
segment that was part of Das Boat, but I will tell you, I had a great time watching that episode.
It was a great podcast.
Oh man, we've never had somebody offended by the origin question before.
Oh,
Kevin
yeah.
has a
Really great
special
answer.
humor.
Yeah.
I'm just like, so Kevin, what's with you in movies? He's just like, what?
What?
Did you say to me? He's like, I was born, I discovered
just
movies,
so you know,
and I'm
Kevin-
still alive. What do you
Kevin
want
came
from
to
me?
Kevin
He's
came to
like-
me about a week ago, and he's like, "I got to be on this Hold Up podcast. What do I do?" I'm like,
Yeah,
well, have
what
you
is
even
it?
Watched it? And
Yeah,
he goes,
he's-
well, yeah. I'm like, well, then that's what you're doing, right?
right. But that's
Fucking
Kevin.
hell,
That's,
before we started, he sent me a message asking if he needs to bring anything.
yeah,
Bring a Jello mold or like
Yeah.
or a noodle poodle.
A Jello salad.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, that's what you have to bring. That's don't come empty-handed.
It was
never
a great
saw it.
episode
Bring a
though, and we
pendant.
loved having Kevin on the show.
Yeah,
was-
great,
was
great
great.
times. Also, X-rated Davin's X-Men podcast with Andre Mayette on Tuesdays.
We
Coming
do
out.
big things over there. We got an
Yeah.
episode or an interview with the voice of Mr. Sinister, actor Christopher Britton.
Awesome. He was like one of my favorites on that cartoon, that Mr.
Yeah, he was
Mr.
one of my
Sinister
favorites.
character.
Oh,
Oh,
Sinister
so
was
good.
definitely good.
Hello.
Had some pretty good arcs in there.
Yeah, great voice, great character. I was like intrigued by the Mr. Sinister character just from the cartoon.
Yeah.
And he's going to be the main villain in the new series coming out, so that'll be exciting.
cool.
And he's voicing that as well. So.
Good job. Well, I can't wait to see
You
it.
gotta tune in to get the infos, though.
Actually, your co-host from that X-rated podcast, Andre Mayette, also has the Graphic Histories podcast, where he interviews
He
amazing
does.
people, comic books, TV, movies, all kinds of interesting people. So he's. I saw he's
Most
got another.
recently, Tara Odie Bear, who's working
Right.
on a feature-length animated film right now. So
Yeah.
very exciting.
We got Eamon on track with my son Eamon talking about music albums. We haven't done one in a little while, but we are going to be doing the Last Waltz from the band in the near future once we can just figure out a time to settle down and get probably
Take
Jeff
a
Mader.
load off, Fanny.
Yeah, Fanny. There you go. And then the Super Mader Brothers podcast, all different podcasts. We got the Survivor, whether it be Brother. We also have our Marvel podcasts.
They are brothers.
We are brothers. I always hit the wrong button, don't I?
We are brothers!
Jaemeel Robinson, often on that show, Josh Foster, all kinds of. If you like those kind of stuff, you like TV shows, check out Super Matters. And then lastly, we have the Hellbound podcast with Michael Chan, Alex Blackburn on Wednesdays, a horror podcast. Oh, I forgot, but we got Trivia
Have they
Debates
put out
coming
an episode in the last few months?
Yeah, I'm a little
Trivial-
disappointed that we've bumped the Office episode of Trivial Debates because I was really excited. About it.
It unfortunately
Yeah,
just
beyond
needed
that-
to be done. Our host he had things come up and
No, that's fine.
So it's just a thing.
What is the next
but
Trivial Debates, Murphy?
It will be
Pride.
this Sunday. I've just got to lock down my third guest. I've been waiting for a bit but we get questions. Everything's either way. Surprise special third guest if I could figure it out. Otherwise, yeah, Pride episode.
And what's the theme?
Pride.
Oh, Pride. Okay.
Which I don't get.
Big
What are the
gay
questions
theme.
going to be? It's just like, how do you think about gay rights? And one of the people are going to be like, they suck.
Yeah.
Well,
What are the
mean,
debates going to be?
I'll give you
Yeah.
a little hint at what one of the questions will be.
Okay.
Let's see.
Do you like rainbows?
What category? What category do you want to hear?
Music.
Actually,
Music?
sports. I want to hear sports.
Sport. What's
Yeah,
Pride Sports?
Oh.
I agree with
What is-
sports.
What is the gayest sport?
Oh,
Water polo comes to mind.
Water polo. Bacula would be so angry with you.
Yeah.
What was that, Devin?
I'm gonna say equestrian riding.
Oh, no.
They make them
luge.
prance around a bit. It's weird.
What
The
about
two-man
synchronized swimming?
That's hard though. Anyway,
So, gay
I
people are
guess
very
that's why
talented.
it's called Trivial Debates.
Questions like these and more this Sunday on Trivial Debates.
Yeah. Okay. I can't wait to see that. Okay. So, guys, I think those are all the shows. Thanks for being with us tonight and listening to our review here of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, Episode 4, Among the Lotus Eaters. We were kind of divided on it. It turns out, but
Another
yeah,
dividing
I'm okay with
episode.
that. Yeah. All right. And let's go out here with a quote on the way out. Have a good time, everybody, and we'll see you next Thursday for the Episode 5. All right.
Debris from what?
Likely an impact between two large celestial bodies that orbited Roger 7 several centuries ago.
Can't you just say 2 moons?
I could, but that would be leaping to a conclusion.
That's right. See you next time.